director of the BS in Public Health program here at Salle University and also an assistant professor. And I took on a task of spearheading this event, but I could not have done it without a bunch of people, and we will make sure we acknowledge them. But we are going to go ahead and get started. So first I will have Dr. Jim Moore, who is the Vice President for Student Affairs and Dean of Students, come up and say a few remarks. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I want to thank you for being here. This is an important day. I want to thank you, the students in this room, who participated in the Not Anymore program. Over 72% of our undergraduate student body participated in that program, so thank you. And thank you to the faculty and staff and the student organizations who encouraged and facilitated students to be a part of that. Who knows what this is? The affirmation. Okay, students, remember this? You've got this at some point. And people, some of you, if you came in as a freshman in recent years, you heard me or some of my colleagues talking about the affirmation of the Day One program. And people know that I refer to this often. So it starts with, I choose to be a member of the Salle University community. And it ends with, in all my actions, I am LaSalle, in association, we are LaSalle. And so there's a beauty of individual action and being a part of a community. But one of the things I want to call out tonight, in terms of some of the values that are in here, is that I commit to my personal involvement in learning for the greater good. So I view this program tonight as being a part of striving for the greater good. That by your presence, you are committing to improving this university and to making a difference in the lives of all students, both currently here and students to come. One of the things that some of you may have heard about Title IX and VAWA, there's federal legislation that requires university to do some things. And what I appreciate about this institution is that rather than think of that as a mandate or a requirement, we have taken this as an opportunity to change our culture. There were a group of faculty and staff who worked all summer to prepare for this school year. When the school year started, there were students who have gotten involved in this coalition, this VAWA coalition. And so I'm so heartened by that commitment to making this a better campus, to making this a better place. And so I thank Dr. Davis and Dr. Neubauer and all the faculty and staff and students who organized this tonight. And I wish you have a great program. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Dr. Moore. So next up, we have a gentleman by the name of Mr. Eric Bay. He is a LaSalle alum, class of 2014. He's also a member of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, and he's currently an MBA student here at LaSalle University. So I'll ask Eric to come up and bless the mic with some words.
Yes, love is the challenge, but it's something you should be able to manage. Spiritually testing, but physically painless, maybe making you anxious, but never making you anguish. See, there's a thin line between love and blindness. The lines he used to lure you on of genuine kindness, and now you find yourself returning to him out of a natural habit, and it's almost as if he's holding you captive. But I'm here to attest and do profess to you that no real love would ever leave you black and blue. Handprints on your arms and rings around your eyes, sweetheart, I think it's about time for you to sever those ties, but it's hard. See, he stripped you of all of your confidence. Told you you weren't beautiful, and sugar, that's just nonsense, see. I'm here to attest and do profess to you that no real love would ever leave you black and blue. You had no idea back when he was first smacking you that he would ever resort to smacking you. Whatever happened to all of his gentlemanly ways, he intricately plays on your heartstrings until you're at wit's end. Cry yourself to sleep at night wondering when will this get end. He's like a playwright seen to revising the script whenever he feels the need to lift up his sick pen. See, the stones keep rolling and you can't get no satisfaction. They awake every night trying to justify his actions. Well, the good outweighs the bad, and he always apologizes, and he's a really good man, probably the best I could ever have, but you deserve a king. So to hear you say this makes me mad. God, I wish he hadn't stripped you of knowing all the value you had. But I'm here to attest and do profess to you that no real love would ever leave you black and blue. No amount or weight could ever compensate for him repeatedly laying his hands on you, but ask him to see me in the rumble, guarantee he'd crumble, displaying his cowardice at what a real man can do. See, in no way, shape, or form do you deserve this. I'm not sure if you've heard this before, but the world has many greater things for you in store. I'm so sorry you chose to endure this for so long, but I can assure you, as much as you try to defend him, he's wrong. So you're a queen, baby girl. I just want you to see the same as I. Relish in the arms of someone who thinks you're fly. Bask in the presence of someone who rebels your mind, who can't wait to see your face so that he can put upon it a smile. Don't settle for suffering hell, settle for nothing except for bliss done unto. Because I'm here to attest and do profess to you that no real love would ever leave you black and blue. Thank you.
Thank you. I told you guys would be in for a treat tonight. So thank you. And that's so true. When you think about domestic violence, a lot of what you see is physical abuse. And you do see people with black and blue marks. I've counseled many women and I've seen broken ribs and injuries. And as you'll hear later on tonight, some of it results in death, unfortunately. And then there are times where a victim doesn't have any bruises, not externally anyway. You have emotional abuse. One thing I wanted to say too that made me think about this as Eric was talking or doing the spoken word, as you came in or even when you were at the table, you see different signs that have why I stayed, why I left, why I support. And he talked about that in the poems, giving different reasons why. There's a lot of justification. And he made a lot of strong points as to why you should not stay. But in terms of domestic violence, there's always the other side. So we are going to have, I said doctor, think in advance. Okay, Mr. John Taylor is a licensed professional counselor. He's an adjunct professor at Drexel University for the College and Family Therapy Department, and he will be teaching as an adjunct here for the public health program. He'll be teaching our violence prevention and control course in the spring. So he will be talking to us about traits and characteristics of batterers. So please welcome John Taylor.
Good evening. How's everyone? You gotta talk to me a little bit, right? Good. So first of all, I want to thank Dr. Davis for having me here tonight. This is a great honor to be here. It's also important that we talk about the issues of domestic violence in the sense of why do men choose to abuse women that they love? I love you, but then I'm beating you. I'm calling you names. I'm abusive to you. Why am I doing that to you? In my career, I started my career years and years ago working as a prison guard in the prison system in North Carolina. I then began to do probation parole work, working with men who were probation for losing their wives and girlfriends. I started working for the program at that time, working with men in groups of men, 20 men in a group, 2 hours a week, who were abusing their wives and girlfriends, and helping them understand why that wasn't right, What gave them the right to do that? And I got so many responses from these guys as to why it was okay for them to abuse their wife. And there's a profile for these guys. When you see a man who's abusive, they're not going to look like a monster, right? Most of them are very attractive. In some cases, they think they are anyway. They usually smell very well. They're groomed. They're very charming. And they suck you into their web, right? The web of love, lies, and deceit. But the whole process is you're not even aware you're in this cycle until you're in the cycle, right? So, they're very extremely jealous. Who are you talking to? Who's that guy looking at you in the Starbucks today? Who are your girlfriends? They don't like me. They're out to get me. They're out, our relationship is not good enough for them. They're out to get us. So they turn you against all your family and your friends. No one is right for you to be with them. So they're extremely jealous. They buy you a cell phone. You think it's great. Or they give you roses. They buy you a nice Christmas gift. But guess what? There's a cost to that. At some point, it's going to come back to you. I'm following you on your phone. The iPhone has that great app, Find Your Phone. Guess what? That's why I got you an iPhone. To find your phone, to find you. Oftentimes, they're extremely manipulative in the fact they make you believe that this is all your fault. If you had not worn that dress, if your friend did not call me that name, if your mom and dad were not against me, this would not be happening. It's your fault. You got to fix it. You got to make it right. It's your responsibility. And one thing about men who are abusive, they take no responsibility for their behavior. It's always somebody else. Other thing about these guys is they are extremely, extremely stuck in traditional roles. The woman's role is to be home. You're in school, you're learning, that's great for you. But guess what? When you get done, get your education, I want your paycheck. How many women do you know who work every single day and go home and their husbands take their money from them? She can't go to the grocery store. She can't buy her own clothes because he wants to know, where are you going? Give me the money. I'll spend the money for you. I'll write the checks out for you. Even on campus here, there could be some guys here who are abusers on this campus, right? I don't know. I'm going to start here in January. We'll find out, right? But let's hope not. But if there are, these guys are going to follow you everywhere you go to class. They want to meet your friends. You won't have friends long because he's going to say they're not good enough for you. Also, when we look at men who are abusive, there's one thing about them I talk about a lot in the sense of, is like the scenario I give is a frog in a nice cold pot of water, right? So follow this analogy with me. So you buy a frog from the store, bring him home, put him in a pot of water, it's cool, right? That's your relationship. It's fun. You're hanging out, he's taking you places, you're just enjoying it. Everything that every guy ever done to you, this guy is not going to do to you because he knows. You tell him your secrets. At bedtime, pillow talk, you guys know what that is, right? Okay. You tell him your secrets in that time. But what does he do with that later? Uses it against you, right? So you're in this pot and it's getting warmer and warmer. You're not realizing you're caught into this web. In the cycle of violence, we know it's three phases in the cycle of violence, right? Phase one is the tension building phase. Little conversation. Things are not happening well. The water's getting warmer, right? Phase two, we have the incident. I'm going to push you, I'm going to slap you, knock you down, or just curse you out pretty badly, right? And the third phase is the honeymoon cycle, where now I'm making up to this. I'm sorry, I'm crying. And batterers cry extremely, extremely well. They cry on the dime just like that, because it's designed to get you back into the hook, okay? Also, so we look at the batterer, I'm almost going to be done soon. One thing about these guys that we all need to talk about is their cruelty to animals. I've had so many men come to my office who have killed a family pet, right? Why? I'm sending a message to you. This could be you. Act right, do right, or you be the dog, right? I will kill you, I will hang you, or I will do it to your family or your friends. I make them suffer for this, for you, for not being fair to me. And we do know, and I believe, and I worked with over thousands of men in my career, and men can change their behavior. Men who are abusers are not abusers forever if they want to change. You gotta get that part. If they want to change, they can change. Change is possible. No one is always going to be an abuser if he wants to do the work to get the work they have done. So, as we talk about victims of violence, and we also have to talk about violence in same-sex relationships as well. There's also another issue with abusers as well. And the whole dynamics of that relationship are some similarities to jealousy, insecurities, but being able to understand, why do you love me, but then you beat me every single day? What kind of love is that? Thank you.
Thank you. One small detail I forgot to say is that I really have to thank John Taylor for this event. He put on, coordinated a domestic violence rally at Drexel last year, and he also did one this year. And so when we talked about him teaching here, he said, you guys have to do a rally. And I'm like, okay, as long as you help me with it. So this conversation was in the summertime, and then it got to be September, and I'm like, oh goodness, October is next month. And so, like I said, with a dynamic group of people, we were able to pull this off, and you're here today. So I want to thank you, John, for encouraging me. Okay, so, and one other thing, in addition to same-sex couples, one thing we do want to acknowledge, even though most of the victims of domestic violence are women, men have also been victims of domestic violence, whether their partner is male or female. So I wanted to make sure that I said that, but we often hear male batterer because often the batterers are male. I wanted to make sure I said that. So without further ado, we are going to have another spoken word performance from Ms. Kenesha Phillips, who is a junior here at LaSalle University. So if I could have Kenesha come up, please.
Everybody. When I was asked to write a piece for this, one thing that really, when I think about domestic violence, one thing that really sticks with me is the idea of victim blaming. I feel like there's a lot of people who have to deal with that, who go through traumatizing events, and then later on think to themselves, what could I have done to prevent that? What could I have done to get myself out of that situation? And I just, personally, I don't think that's fair. I think that's something that everybody needs to work on, even from observers to that situation and people who are actually in the situation. Is definitely something that needs to be addressed. Was your skirt too short? Did you wear too much makeup? Did he tell you that you deserved it? That you weren't worth waiting for? Did you flirt too much? Was your shirt cut a little bit too low? Did she tell you it was hers? Did she make you think that you wanted it too? Did you ask for it? As if someone would ask for such a thing. As if anyone deserved to be treated the way he treated you. Did you drink too much? Did you take your eyes off of your drink? Did you choose to be alone with him? Did you forget to say that you weren't going home with him? Did you think that if you did what he said, he would leave you alone? That if you played by his rules, you could get out somehow? Maybe because he didn't understand no, you decided to say yes. You figured you would just let it happen. The sooner it's over, the better. Say no. Again and again and again. No, 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 no. I do not want this. Make yourself heard. Make yourself clear. This is not your fault. You did not make this happen. You did not ask for it. This is their fault. It's their generation's fault. They think that there are two types of women, difficult and easy. As if it isn't your choice of who you love. But the decision is yours to make and yours only. You are free to say yes. You are free to say no. It is okay to ask why. It is okay to say no. Don't be afraid to leave. And look for help, because it is out there. There are people who are willing, no, who are committed to help people like you. Get the support that you need to move past everything that you've been through. Thank you.
Thank you. So, next we have our keynote speaker. As we were planning this event, we were trying to figure out what do we want this event to be. You know, we wanted it to be full of all types of things. So far we've been able to have the education, the empowerment. Later on we'll have some testimony. We wanted to make sure that we had someone that could really speak to domestic violence. And I mean, we have plenty of people in the room that can do that as well. So this particular person, Beth Sturman, she is a board member for the Kristin Mitchell Foundation, and she's also executive director of Laurel House. And so we're so thrilled that she agreed to be the speaker for this evening, and I'm not going to steal her thunder, so I'll let her come and tell you what she's going to talk to you about this evening. So please welcome her.
I'm not technologically challenged, so Dr. Davis is going to help me do this short video that Kristin's father, who had wanted to be here to address you personally tonight and couldn't be, unfortunately, for some other logistical reasons. So he created this video so that you would have a sense from his perspective and her mom's perspective about a little bit more about information about their daughter. Thank you.
Young relationships can be. One of our family learned Love's boyfriend was accused of killing her. They knew it was time to tell their story. Tonight, WJZ investigates dangerous relationships and how technology hides the warning signs. The parents you're about to meet hope their words will save someone's life. College student Yardley Love is brutally murdered after she tries to break up with boyfriend George Hughley. It's a tragic loss. He is now accused of beating her to death. Police confiscate both their computers, checking for threatening emails and text messages.
You got a real nightmare on your hands with this type of thing.
Sadly, the Yardley Love case is not unusual. 1/3 of teenage girls say they have been a victim of dating violence. It is something the parents of Ellicott City's Kristin Mitchell know all too well. Their daughter's boyfriend cyber-stalked her before he killed her.
It's not as bad as it gets.
Endless, relentless text messages and emails.
It was pretty much constant, you know, always checking up on her.
Then, the breaking point.
She had called a friend saying that he was there and he wouldn't leave, and then the phone went dead.
May 2005, the 21-year-old award-winning horseback rider had just graduated from St. Joseph's University in Philadelphia. But Kristin's world, like Yardley's, came crashing down when she tried to break up with her boyfriend. He stabbed her 55 times.
Since this has happened to Kristin, the entire dating violence has kind of become an epidemic. I mean, it has exploded.
1 in 3 teens are texted 30 times an hour by a partner asking where they are, what they're doing, who they're with. Just as disturbing, more than 80% of these teens' parents have no idea. Had you said to Kristin, you know this boy you're dating who's texting you 30 times at the beach, you better watch out, he could be a dangerous fellow with a dangerous temper.
Parents ultimately don't really know enough. And I'll come right out and say the fathers are clueless.
The high-profile murders of Yardley Love and Kristin Mitchell, 2 popular young athletes with everything going for them, made people more aware of how technology allows obsessive behavior to go unnoticed. The privacy of texting makes it possible for someone to know where you are, what you're doing 24/7. Parents and friends need to know the warning signs in order to avoid what could be deadly results.
I remember thinking, and I think we talked about that something very positive would have to come out of something this bad, this horrible.
The House of Ruth is on the attack against dating violence, advising parents to talk to their teenagers about healthy relationships.
We need to be aware of when that contact is turning threatening, when it's turning intimidating.
I think that our story, or Kristin's story, has given a lot of people permission to talk to their kids in a different way, take action, potentially save somebody's life.
Now, the 5th annual Kristin's Crusade 5K Run Walk to raise awareness about dating violence will take place this Sunday in Philadelphia. You can learn more about it on WJZ.com.
Thank you for taking the time to look at that. So, it's obviously an old film clip. I'm really honored to be able to be here tonight to speak a little bit about Kristin's story and about the Kristin Mitchell Foundation. As I said, Mr. Mitchell and Michelle, her mom, deeply regretted that they couldn't be here themselves. And I unfortunately did not have the privilege of knowing Kristin myself. I met the family shortly after she was killed. And we're coming up now on the 10th anniversary of her death, which will be June 3rd of next year, 2015. And over the 9.5 years that I've known Bill and Michelle Mitchell and their son David, Kristin's younger brother, who's also in the picture, I've really, although I did not have the privilege of knowing her, I've had the opportunity to get to know an awful lot about her, both through her parents and her brother, and through her many, many friends at St. Joe's. And I'm sure all of you here on this campus can relate to the way that over 4 years together in a college environment, people really get close to each other. And Kristin was very, very close to a whole group of female friends. Mr. Taylor talked about the isolation that abusive significant others often impose on people, and over time, Kristin's boyfriend did exactly that and started to get her more and more removed from her friends, gave her a hard time when she, as you saw from the text message, when she said, "You're being ridiculous, why can't I spend time with my friends?" He really more and more insisted that that time be just between the two of them. "Your friends don't like me." She worked off campus at a restaurant in the area, a very high-end restaurant in the area, and she met this young man who ultimately murdered her. He also had a job there at the restaurant, and they connected and quote-unquote fell in love, as many of us do while we're in college. And but he wasn't a college student, so one of his hooks was, "Well, your friends don't think I'm good enough for you because they look down on me because I'm not a college student." A whole host of different ways of isolating her, which is very typical in abusive relationships. The last time that Kristin's parents saw her was at graduation, which is that picture. She had just gotten a contract for a new job. She was a marketing major at St. Joe's and food marketing, and had gotten a job with a large food manufacturing company, was very, very excited about embarking on her career, had just gotten a new apartment in a lovely townhouse complex in Conshohocken, was very excited about embarking on her whole new grown-up life. And realized that she needed to make a change in this relationship. It was getting more and more constraining. I think he probably was, who can begin, other than Mr. Taylor, to understand the mind of the abuser, but he was probably beginning to become very afraid that as she went out into this world of a career and a professional life, an apartment of her own and all of that, that she might leave him behind. And in fact, that was her intention, not because she wanted to leave him behind, but because she was really tired of the increasing levels of abuse, which started out, as it often does, as simply verbal abuse, and it was sporadic verbal abuse, put downs, occasional, maybe a little shove, maybe a little tap, nothing real significant that we know of. And she didn't share much with her parents at all about her concerns about the young man. She did share with some of her friends, and some of her friends would witness when they would be out in group events some of the behavior, although, as with many other abusers, he was pretty good at putting out a good front when there were other people around. But her friends were absolutely concerned, and she was growing increasingly concerned, and she confided in a few of them that it was just getting to be way too confining and smothering, and that she was a little bit afraid of his outbursts and his increasing, the verbal abuse was getting closer together, the occasional push was turning into a more frequent push. Things were started, she was very aware that there were some pretty significant concerns in the relationship. And she was getting ready to break that off with him, and so, which is what she was in the process of doing while he was at her apartment when he stabbed her. So the one thing that she didn't know, and that her friends didn't know, and that the people that were close to her and loved her didn't know, is that one of the most dangerous times in domestic abuse or dating violence is during that breakup period, or shortly after the breakup period. I had the honor to be with another family who lost a loved one yesterday in court, and in this case it was an older woman whose brother had helped her make a plan to leave the family situation, to leave her marriage, and to move out into a place of her own. And he said, we all breathed, when she went and saw the attorney and she got her own apartment, we breathed a sigh of relief. We didn't realize that's the time we had to be most careful. She didn't realize that's the time she had to be most careful. And so the one thing that I think from Kristin's story and from in the work that I do at Laurel House, from what we've seen with other families who have lost loved ones, is all of us, including advocates, sometimes think, oh, thank heaven she's going to leave. Or as Dr. Davis said, sometimes the abused person is a man. Thank heavens he's going to break this up. And we all just kind of go, oh, good, okay, finally. And then that's the time that safety plan that advocates can help with. And I'm sure you have people here on your campus that can help with making safety plans. That's the time that safety plan needs to be in place. That's the time that people need to be most cautious. So I want to talk a little bit more about Kristin, and then I want to talk a little bit about how we can help if we have a friend or a family member or a loved one, a neighbor, a colleague, a coworker that we might be concerned about. Because I have known Kristin's friends for almost 10 years. And while her parents, obviously, her father talks about, and I could never do justice to this story, her family lives outside of Maryland, and he was out, David and Michelle Mitchell were out on one outing, one evening, and Bill was out taking care of something related to his business. He was self-employed at the time. And he was taking care of his business, and he got a phone call on his cell phone, and it was from a detective there in their police department, and he thought it was a joke. He thought, why would you be calling me? And the detective said, we need to talk to you. And he said, well, we want to meet with you. And so he was very skeptical and couldn't figure out why in the world anybody would want to talk with him, and wasn't sure if it was a hoax. And so they arranged to meet in a public place outside of a supermarket in their community. And he said as soon as he saw the male and female detective get out of the car and start walking towards him, he knew that something really tragic had happened. And he was pretty sure that something really tragic was about his daughter, because he had a really bad feeling about that boyfriend and about some of the conversations that he had with Kristin about that boyfriend. And so then he talks about hearing from those detectives what had happened to his daughter, and the devastation of hearing that your beloved daughter had been killed in such a horrible, vicious way, not just was dead, but had been killed in this horrible, vicious way. And then his next thought was, now I have to tell her mother. How in the world am I going to tell my wife that our daughter has been killed? You know, how do I break the news to her younger brother that his older sister, who he was so close to, has been killed? So while I've had the opportunity to really hear Bill and Michelle talk about that and talk about the horror of that night and the loss, which I'll read a little bit from something that they wrote, the loss that they've subsequently lived with every day of their lives for the last 9.5 years. The other thing I've had the opportunity to do is spend time listening to her friends who feel so devastated at the loss of their friend, guilty that they didn't recognize the signs, or when they did have concerns that they didn't know what to say, they didn't know what to do, they knew something was wrong, they didn't know how to help. And I think it's really important, especially for young people. We always, when we go into schools, in middle schools and high schools and colleges, and we talk with young people about dating violence, and we always say, talk to a trusted adult. But we know that who you're probably going to talk to is each other, which is great. Talk to somebody. And then it's really important that the somebodies, the peers and or the trusted adults, the people who are trusted with that information about the problems in that relationship and the concerns about the relationship, have some idea about how in the world do we help this person now that they've taken that big leap of faith to share this really difficult information with us and their concerns and fears with us. And how do we do that in a way that's not going to push them further, that's going to help them and not push them further away? Because sometimes what happens is that someone will come to a friend or a relative and share what's going on in their relationship, but they're not ready to change that relationship. And this is really important in what we do every day in our work. It's so hard when you can see as a little bit more objective observer, oh my gosh, this is really dangerous, and you can see that. But you don't want to alienate the person by saying, you need to get out of there now, because they may not be ready to get out of there now. So you want to leave that door, that channel of communication open. It's really hard. It's a challenge every day not to be judgmental about it, not to have great ideas about how they should solve their own problems, not to have this great solution and feel like we need to run in and save the day, but to really be a supportive listener, an encourager, someone that can help the person think through and talk through, encourage them to get to local support groups, encourage it. Sometimes support groups are an amazing thing because we can hear from our peers sometimes who are in similar situations so much better than we can hear from anybody else. What kinds of changes we might want to make, or what kinds of things might be helpful at making them. One of the most valuable suggestions people have shared with us that has, for them, victims of domestic abuse and dating abuse have shared with us, is when a friend takes notes about those conversations and keeps those notes in a safe place so that they can reflect them back later when the person says, I don't think you really meant it. I don't think it was really that bad. I think maybe I'm over-exaggerating. Maybe I'm just making this bigger than it really is. And when you can read back to the person or hand the person a notebook and say, well, here's what you told me on this date, and then here's what you told me on this date. And do you remember when this happened? Because here's what you shared with me. Then they can start to see that pattern and recognize, hopefully, how big it really is. I want to read this last piece about Kristin. I could talk for a long time about dating violence and domestic violence, and I think the most important thing for me to communicate, for students especially, is talk to somebody. Find someone you trust and talk to somebody. That isolation and that belief. 1 out of every 4 women in this country experiences domestic abuse. 1 out of every 15 men, we believe. It could be higher, but because male domestic abuse is underreported probably, as is female, but I think it's harder for men to report. So at least 1 out of every 15 men will experience domestic abuse in their lifetime. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people in that situation who still think that it doesn't happen to other people, and we're still very ashamed and afraid to talk about it. So find somebody that you can talk to, and if you're concerned about a friend or a family member, encourage them to talk with you and assure them that you just want to help and that you're not there to give them advice, that you're just there to listen and to try to help them find their own answers. So this is a piece that Kristin's mom and dad wrote August 24th of 2014, which was Kristin's 31st birthday. The 31st birthday, the 10th birthday without Kristin. We will pause many times and remember all of the August 24th starting from 1983. The first was absolutely marvelous. Kristin was born at 4:17 p.m. and she was so absolutely perfect in every way, just beautiful and so kissable. Her 4 grandparents visited that evening and they took turns holding and marveling over her. They couldn't say enough and we couldn't take enough pictures. The August 24th that followed were welcome and fun. The second one included chocolate cake just about everywhere. Kristin was rightfully the center of attention. A few years later, we had a horse brought to our backyard so all of Kristin's friends could ride. Kristin fell in love with horses early on, starting with a rocking horse, which we still have. Later, August 24th meant we'd be eating crabs in the backyard and enjoying time with Kristin for hours. Steamed crabs had become a tradition, one that we'll be carrying on again this year too. Thanks to Facebook, we continue to receive wonderful notes from people who remember and miss Kristin. Some notes are sad, some are happy. We appreciate them all. Her friends love Kristin today as much as they did in life. Her following is growing daily as more and more people want to know who she is. At 4:17 p.m., wherever we are, we pause and reflect on a life that was cut short because of dating violence, but also a life well lived. She remains a beautiful person, well loved. That's Bill and Michelle Mitchell. Thank you all very much.
How about another round of applause for Beth? Thank you. So, okay. So one thing I wanted to point out, as you've heard thus far about domestic violence, there's many types. So we talked about physical abuse. We've also talked about the emotional abuse. Domestic violence can also take in the form of sexual abuse, financial abuse, and technological abuse, as Mr. Teller had discussed earlier. So, and that's important to know because a lot of times we have an idea of what it looks like, and so then there's these other things that are going on that we may not be aware of. And so I think this program is very important in terms of the warning signs and what to look for. And also I think how we respond to our loved ones who come to us with these experiences and telling you these stories. And sometimes we may see them ourselves, but we have to be cautious when talking to them because, yes, it does hurt us to see our loved ones going through this, but if you say, oh, they're such a loser, just leave them, and if you're talking negatively about this person, when things really get heated, you're probably going to be the last person that they come to because they kind of get a sense, well, you don't like them anyway. And so, even though it's going to be hard, but I know for me, that's what saved me. My best friend was able to basically tell me that she couldn't go along with me with this emotional abusive relationship that I was in. And that's what actually got me to live. She sat me down one day and said, I can't do this with you anymore. Basically saying that it was hurting her so much to see me let someone treat me the way that they were. And it was enough for me to say, okay, even though this may sound weird, but it was like, it's enough for you to treat me one way, but you're not gonna treat my best friend any kind of way. But it got me to leave. And so luckily for me, it was early enough that I was able to leave without any major ramifications happening. So just keep that in mind when talking to your loved ones about, you know, what could happen if someone does leave, those consequences, but also just making sure that you do it with love and understand that that person does love that person. So just keep that in mind. So next we are going to, one thing I want to do before we move on to the next section of our program. One of the things that Beth talked about was the importance of getting help and having resources and knowing where to tell people to go for services. So I do want to acknowledge if these individuals could just do a quick stand up and wave. We do have some organizations that have resources out on the table. We have from Lutheran Settlement House, we have Sydney Roll and Marcella Slick. If you could just stand up. They're actually in the back waving. We also have Gracie Spaulding from Rose's Journey. And Leah Durst from War. She's back there as well. And so they have information whether it's you need services, you know someone that needs services. It could just be to get additional information for students here. If you're looking for somewhere to volunteer or intern, you're looking for volunteers all the time, everybody's nodding. So just go back there for whatever information that you need. You know, no one's gonna look at you like, she's at the table. Just, you know, it's a lot of information there. I picked up some information myself. So the resources are here, so please utilize them. So, in terms of this evening, we've come together to learn, share, and support. And as we come to a close, we want to take this time to remember those domestic violence victims and reflect on those survivors. So at this time, we're going to do a little bit of moving around, a little bit of logistics, but as you came in, you probably noticed that there was a candle on your chair or near you. So we're going to ask for everyone to pick up the candle that was on your chair. We initially wanted to have one circle, but since there's so many of us, we're going to break it off and have 2 circles. And I would ask that either John and someone can help me to move the cart out the way just so we can open up the space. And then we're just going to ask if everyone can come up to the room. We're going to stand in 2 circles. We want to try to have at least the circles close to each other. Yeah, we'll have 1 circle inside each other. I don't know how we're going to do that logistically, but I guess we can do it around here. We still need the podium. So there's more candles up front, and eventually when everyone has a candle, we're going to have some students come and light a few candles, and then we ask that you all light each other's candles. So we'll give a few minutes for that. We'll have a circle within a circle, but not everybody move up because we need some people for the outer circle. are that person, just listen to what we've been talking about thus far, and know that you have a huge support system right here. And so we're just going to listen to the music and just reflect. And then after the music comes to a close, we'll have Lenise Garcia come forward and provide for us a message of hope. So let's just reflect for a few minutes.
I just want to say that I'm very grateful and honored to be a part of the planning committee here. And it was an inspiration to work beside such empowered women, so thank you for that experience. The issue of domestic violence is very dear to my heart as I grew up around it. 3 of the strongest women that I know laid the foundation of womanhood for me, and they fueled me with the most unconditional love. Both my grandmothers were abused by my grandfathers, which I didn't really know about until later on in my life, but my aunt I knew about from a very early stage. She was in a long-term abusive relationship with the father of my first cousin, and I remember it like yesterday. I witnessed her getting beat senselessly right in front of me when I was 5. What was I to do but scream and cry? What could I have done? You may think I'm small now, but imagine a 5-year-old me. I was a very tiny thing. But my voice had always been my power, so I screamed and I cried the loudest that I could. And as I saw blood gushing from her head, and I heard the beating sound of his fist on her face and her body, it seemed like it went on forever, especially with my poor concept of time. But eventually, it did stop. And when it did, he ran out of the house and out of the building. It took her a very long time to get out of that abusive relationship, as he almost took her life as a result. He beat and tried to drown her in the bathtub, and she got staples in her head, and it all went down right in front of my cousin. Domestic violence victims usually feel trapped in a powerless state, which may seem to be unbreakable to them, until they become survivors and take that power back. And I thank God that my aunt finally took her power back and became a survivor. I always saw her and my grandmothers as queens, and I still do to this day, as I know my aunt struggles with her self-worth, but I pray for her, my grandmothers, and all survivors of domestic violence, as one day I hope they will all see themselves as the queens they truly are. But I'm here today to bring a message of hope and empowerment. I'm here to break the cycle, and in order to take back your power, you must first forgive yourself. And trust me, I know how difficult this can be, but it's crucial to heal. So don't dwell on how long it took you to leave. You left, and now you have to find a safe place to grow and heal, to be the woman and or man you were meant to become. You can turn to God as a safe place, as your protector, and in Christ to redeem and forgive you, because pain is temporary and love is forever. So start by loving yourself first and knowing your true worth. Violence never equates to love, and neither party should be putting their hands on the other. God will always be there to protect and love you, and in loving him, you can learn to love yourself more. So it's time now to take your power back and never let it be taken again. Use your voice and prayer, your most valuable tools. Be empowered and stay empowered. God bless you all, and I thank you all for attending, as well as all of our co-sponsors. Thank you again. So blow your candles out.
Hang on one more second.
One second. So really quickly, I wanted to make sure that I acknowledge all of the co-sponsors for this event. So the Department of Urban Public Health and Nutrition, we have LaSalle's VAWA Committee, the Department of Sociology and Criminal Justice, RAP, Student Government Association, LaSalle University's Interfraternity Council, Lutheran Settlement House, WAR, the Women's Studies Program, the Department of Social Work, Explorer Connection, Peer Educators, Neighborhood Nursing Center, the Athletic Department, Laurel House, and Rose's Journey. And I want to thank again all of the speakers that came out to share their wisdom and experience. I want to thank Laura Celia for playing on the piano so beautifully. Thank you. I just want to thank everybody that's here that showed up, because we can't have a program without participants. And for all the students that volunteered to come out, helping us set up, help keeping me in line with all the planning. Big thanks to Lane and Tara for just all of your help. Being a huge extension for me. When I brought this to Lane's attention, the first thing she said was, I'll do what I can, I just want to spearhead. I'm like, okay, whatever you can do. And Lane's like emailing me like, okay, so we're going to do this. And I'm like, I thought you weren't going to spearhead anything. But just thank you for everything. I couldn't have done it without everybody here, so thank you.